Hey knife guys, so here's another of my reviews. Hit like, hit subscribe, comment, even if you just say cool, thumbs up, rad, something. The comments help my algorithms. So before we had the artisan cutlery, we showed the proponent, which for folks that didn't want to spend $450 on the cheap Medford. The next step up starts at 600 and goes up to 900 something. There was that Dirk Pinkerton design of the artisan cutlery proponent, and D2 steel G10, beast of a freaking knife, man. And for someone who doesn't want to spend $450, but you want a knife that you feel like you could fight halfway to hell and back, go get one. They're 59 bucks on Amazon all day long. Get one. It's an amazing piece of hardware. So I got another one here that I think is going to be, again, if you don't want to spend $120 on the Hogue SIG collaboration, that's my K320, goes with my SIG M18 Army version of the SIG P320 9mm sidearm. I've also got my SOG Kiku XR. This is the $189, or it might even be $200 now. Really beefy, brawny, but small. And that's what I like about these, is that this one is a bit bigger, but these are in that mid size. They're not the Medford size. They're not the proponent. These are more heavy duty knives, but EDC friendly. But maybe you don't want to spend almost $200. Maybe you don't want to spend 120 or whatever those are going for these days. Maybe you say, you know what, I got 30 bucks. Well, you can buy this knife for, I think I paid 25 bucks. I'll put a link to Amazon. And so you can buy this knife and have money left over for one taco. So what is it? It's an Eafengrow. It's G10. It's D2 steel. While we're talking, because I never freaking remember to do this shit ahead of time. I'm always like, oh yeah, I should probably pull up my orders, and that way I can find out the exact price. And so this is the the EF46 from Eafengrow. They've got them in different colors. You can get it with a tan handle. You can get one with an orange G10 handle. But what you're looking at is 7.7 inches overall. It's a flipper design with really nice action. We'll go with that in a minute. So 7 3/4, you're just under 8 inches. The blade is D2 steel. It's a, looks like a clip point. Well, would that be a clip or a drop point? I guess it's a clip point. 3.3 inches, weighs 5.6 ounces. So for EDC, it's on the beefier side, but so is this. And this one, I think it's more closely related to for this. This is a bit bigger, but it's also very light. This is a great knife. Really nice action. But this one has bearings, ball bearings, has micarta, and it's got some better steel, cryo-treated CTS XHP. But here you're getting D2, G10, steel liners. You're getting is it a deep carry pocket clip? Not quite as deep as that, but you're in that sort of same size and thickness. And this one cost me the princely sum of $26.99. So just enough money left over for a taco. It's got a stone wash blade. It's got some cool machining there. It is a flipper. We've got ball bearings. The action is very smooth. I mean, you just use the light switch, and I'm really not even flicking it. It's got a fairly strong detent, so you don't have to flick it hard. You just, when it goes, it just boom. But you can slap it out pretty good. Acts as a finger guard. In my hands, it pushes a little bit into that knuckle. It's not painful. I don't know how, if I had to really use it a lot, would it kind of rub on that knuckle? If your hands are slightly smaller, this is one of those subjective things. If it fits your hand, little bit of a hot spot. I would say the hot spot from the clip is probably more noticeable than that piece pushing back. I would like to see that degree changed a tiny bit. Have it like 2 degrees canted away from your finger. It doesn't pinch. There's no edges or anything in there. It's just for a large hand, it's just starting to press on that knuckle. So if I was doing something a lot, I might start to feel that. Your hands, you may not even notice it. This does kick up a bit. If you look at like that pocket clip, see how it's parallel to the handle. So You feel the metal there, but there's nothing actually poking into your hand. That kicks up. And so you do feel that edge right there. The contouring on the handle is good. The G10's nice. It's all Torx. I don't know if there's a T6 or T8, so I'll get my thing out in a minute. The pocket clip is tip up, and it is right hand only. There's no holes over here to move that pocket clip, so that is what it is. You got some jimping on the back, and it's actually kind of useful. Like, you got jimping on the handle, you got jimping on the handle down here, and that actually gives you some traction. There's no real way to choke up. That point points in your knuckle. That's not enough to use as a finger choil or anything, but you can choke up on it a little bit. Feels pretty sharp. We'll do a slice of paper test in a minute. I'll say one thing, you know, you look at this and you're like, oh, it's a thumb. What's kind of weird about that is they put that in, and I'm not sure why. I mean, is that there just to lighten up the blade? Because when it's there, you can't, I mean, I don't see, yeah, I mean, you risk cutting yourself unless you sit here and practice with it, which again is why I don't do the Spidey flick, because you got to sit there and practice it. And I know it started a couple years ago, people doing the Spidey flick, and now every knife reviewer has to make a point of doing it because they think it looks cool. And I guarantee you, before they did that video, they sat there for half an hour getting it down just right for that particular knife. Because anybody can just pick up a flipper and just do it. There's nothing to it, you know? You don't have to learn that knife. You're like, oh, there's a flipper. It opens. But to do the Spidey flick, you have to sit there and figure out where to hold the thing so it doesn't come out of your hand, it doesn't shift, how to get the right angle to overcome the detent, keep your finger out of the way. These guys are sitting there practicing it just to do it because it looks cool, whatever. I don't know if you can do it on this knife. You can't do it, you know, flicking it like you could. Well, actually on this one you can't, because by the time you choke up on it, then this actually hits your finger. And that's kind of, again, goes back to my points I made in knives before. Either design it to be open this way or design it to be open this way. Because a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, designing it for both, using one hinders the other. Now, using this doesn't in any way, you know, having that there doesn't hinder you doing it as a flipper. But here, if I go to open this, I'm opening it, my finger's rubbing on it. So it's kind of hard to hold it and flick it. Yeah, you got to sit here and dick around with it. So what's the point of that? You're taking a little weight off the blade, but you're also taking some strength out of the blade. So, you know, if this is a hard use knife, I'm looking at this going, if this doesn't really serve any purpose, if I can't actually flick it, if I got rid of this, if I ground that off, then yeah, I could probably flick that, no problem. It'd be more on par with this. You got that little bit there just to get started and boom, flick it open. Although with this, you just use the lock. As soon as you do that, you know. So that would be a critique I'd have of this and of this. So you got the flipper there. I won't say this is my favorite design. I mean, it works really well. It sticks straight out. So depending if that's in your pocket, that sticks out a good bit. And it's thinner this way, and it's very straight. So I don't know, if you're bending over, that could be poking into your thigh. I mean, it's not gonna hurt you, but you're gonna feel it. It could be uncomfortable. It does make for an easy flipping action, and it does make for a good trigger guard. I just feel like it's bigger than it has to be. If this wasn't stonewashed, where it would ruin the finish, I would probably take this off, and I may do it and just say, you know what, that's just gonna look a little different. I may go down and just reprofile that on the belt sander. Just take that and nub and off, just shorten it and change that angle a little bit. That would make it more comfortable here. You'd still have enough to go ahead and flip it. It's just, it doesn't need to be that protruding. That, to me, it looks odd, and it's just something that when you pull out of your pocket, it's at almost a right angle. So it's something that could actually, if you had to pull it out fast, you could snag that on the corner of your pocket. Don't like that. See how this is at much more of an angle, so it's more likely to slip off, but even that's kind of big. All that aside, it works well. So, you know, I'll give it that. I'm probably gonna disassemble this, and I'm probably gonna go down and just grind that off a little bit. And the thing is, it's a $27 knife. So I'm not worried about, I wouldn't do that to a Medford or even one of these. But it is in that same weight class. It's built pretty beefy. You got some decent G10 scales, you got decent thickness, steel liners. You do have ball bearings in there. Lockup is kind of far over. I'll say that. Well, these are both axis locks. So I don't have anything. Well, I got my Lion Steel or my MKM Maximo. See how that one's just kind of early on. So I would say, now this could just be a sample of this one. All my other Eafengrows, the lockup is more like that. This one in particular, I don't know. They could have just, whatever. That one's over pretty far. I'm not worried about it coming undone, but over time, that's going to work its way over maybe. So I don't know. I would say out of the Eafengrows I've gotten, this one I would say is probably the ones I'm lesser impressed with. I mean, some of the other Eafengrows, you know, their copy, I think this one's an Eafengrow. Their copy of, this is a clone of the Microtech DOC. I think it's Death on Contact. And I think that's the only one I've got here. No, I've got another one. This one is the Eafengrow. This one uses the axis lock. This one has a fuller that you can flick it out, or you can just use the lock. Well, I guess that one doesn't help me either because it's a different lock. I can't show the lockup. Let's see, this one. Yeah, see how that one's kind of early on? So I'll ding this one on my critique for the blade centering, I believe, is, it's a little to the one side, you know, but again, it's for $27. If you don't want to spend $210 or whatever the hell I spent on that one, these are up to almost 200. These are 120-ish or something like that. I think you can get the autos for like 145. But these, you know, these are all over 100 and pushing 200 and over 200. But if you want that sort of a, you know, cheap but really beefy, I mean, it's real thick blade stock. You've got really, really sweet action once it gets past that detent. I mean, just drops right on down. So there's the detent. As soon as you get past that, very sweet action. Can't argue with that. My only critique of it is on this particular one, and this could just be the one out of the batch, is that lockup is way further over than I would want. I would want it more over here. So whenever they were grinding that edge, they just took an extra couple thousandths off that they shouldn't have. So whether that's just how they do this particular knife, or I think it just slipped through quality control, and for $27, they're like, whatever. But I mean, that's really over there, noticeably. So I'm gonna definitely ding it for that. I won't not recommend the knife. I just think I got one that's a little off. And then that, to me, that design is just, it's just a little bit bigger than it needs to be. Let's see, what size Torx Bits are we using here? Looks like, get yourself one of these little tools. Probably picked it up for, I don't know, $9 or something on Amazon or Home Depot, forget where. So let's see, are we looking at, of course, would these be labeled? No, why would they label them? I guess you just go through until you find one that fits, eh? But in any case, I'm gonna go ahead and disassemble this, and I'm gonna take that on the belt sander. Why not? It's a cheap knife. If I can profile that a little bit better, make it a little nicer, I'll do that. The only difference is it's gonna take the finish there, but I can polish it at least, so it won't be like, you know, scratchy, but you're gonna have a shiny spot on there as opposed to the stone wash. But whatever, it's a cheap knife, who cares? I'll do that on a cheap knife. If I get an expensive knife that doesn't work for my ergonomics, I'm much less likely to take a Dremel or the belt sander to it to fix it. But reprofiling the point on a Swiss Army knife to get it to an actual stabby point instead of a rounded, almost, you know, child-proof safety point, I'm willing to do that on a $70, whatchamacallit, Swiss Army knife. Grab a slice of paper real quick. Will it slice? Yeah. Not a bad edge. Not a bad edge at all. Push test? What do you think? Think he'll do a push test? Nope. No, not sharp enough for a push test, but it's got a decent edge. Won't knock him for that. So I would say overall, take the lock out. I think that's an anomaly because every other Eafengrow knife I've gotten has never had a lockup. The frame or whatchamacallit, liner lock has never come over that far. I think that's just an anomaly of the one I happen to get. It happens. I mean, I've had some much more expensive knives that came and somehow something slipped through quality control. But, you know, if you want that knife that's in that size, you don't want to spend $200, but you want something that's a similar size, similar-ish profile, kind of heavier duty, kind of brawny, really sweet action. You want to spend $200? I would look at one of these. That's the Eafengrow EF46 in D2 with G10. It's a well-built knife, man. I mean, I feel like I could abuse that. Lockup does feel good. I just wonder at some point that'll wear enough. I know I'm not even going to bother reprofiling it. Screw it. I don't know how much I'll carry this knife at all. With it being over that far, that will be a problem at some point. I think that will wear over time if you use the lock, metal on metal. That'll go all the way over to that side and it'll get hung up. So I would say I got a lemon. Am I going to go to the trouble to try to return it for $27? No. But on the design, I haven't seen anybody else complaining about that. I think they just got a little exuberant with the grinding on here, and the guy just took off a little bit too much. The lockup should be there. With it going all the way over that far, I think it's a matter of time until it kind of almost gets in. Now, the piece here is thicker than the gap there, so I don't know that the blade would be able to close. But if it's already over that far, then I think that'll be a problem at some point. So, oh well, the one I got, not so good. And then you say, well, that's what happens when you buy from China. Well, yeah, maybe. But to be honest, I've ordered 40, 50, 60 knives from China. And that's one of the only ones I've gotten where I've been like, I'm not happy about that. You know, would it still, would I still use it as a pocket knife? Well, yeah, if I didn't have all the nicer knives, which I'm going to carry in instead of that. But I would say, you know, I think in that regard, because of that lock, that one's not going to make it into my rotation. I don't know that I could return it because I'm trying to explain what the problem is, and it's just not worth. For $27, it's nothing, whatever. Spend that on lunch. So anyway, there's that one. A little disappointed in the lock. Otherwise, great alternative to that. So I would say don't not buy it because of where mine locked up. But if you're looking, you want that kind of beefier, heavier duty EDC style knife that's a little bit overbuilt like a tank, but you don't want to spend $200, I would say give that a shot. I would be very surprised if they're all coming like that, just based on all the other knives. I've had several Eafengrows and watched a lot of reviews on them, and I've not seen that be a complaint, and I've never experienced it myself before. So this may just be the luck of the draw. That's just the one I got. Anyway, I'll have another video coming here. There's a video I would love to do as a tutorial, but I know that I will get in immediate trouble with YouTube if I do, despite it being 100% totally legal on the up and up. But I've got a bunch of lowers that I need to build up. I've got my Let's Go Brandon with F. Joe Biden on it. So I've got my stripped lower, and I went out and got the lower parts kit and all that stuff. I'm building up a lower, and then I'm going to buy probably a 300 blackout upper for hunting. So I've got all the parts, and I would love to do a tutorial of here's how you assemble it, which is completely legal. Yeah, I mean, I filled out the ATF form and transferred this. I legally bought this from a dealership. Had it bought it online from Palmetto and had him ship it to my dealer, who did all the transfer and the forms and the paperwork. So it's completely legal to put these together. It's just assembly. But if I show it, they will ding my channel and lock me out. So I'll do a video on when I get the final rifle built. I'll go through the parts and all the stuff that I did to get it to that point, but I can't actually show you the assembly. So I'm gonna go do that off camera and see what other knives are out there worth looking at. But I would give this one a look if you want an inexpensive, kind of overbuilt, but still EDC friendly. It's a cool knife. I don't think you'll have that problem with the lockup. But anyway, we'll talk to you guys later.